News Talk 98.9, the roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Welcome to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning.
And I'm Allan Gilbreth with darkoakmedia.com.
And that's our buddy Max over there behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling hotline at 901-683-0989. And I don't know, Max, you should start introducing yourself. Why am I introducing you for you?
I don't know, because I'm behind the glass.
Okay.
You can hear me anyway.
I think next week, I want you to start introducing yourself.
What am I going to say? Am I Maximilian behind the glass?
Yes, that's exactly what you say. Okay. just like the way the gorilla would introduce himself from behind the cage. Allan, that's the same.
No, you're the guys who are the gorillas. I'm the kid with the peanuts.
Anyway, all right.
Looking at the studio, Joe, I hate to admit it, I think he's right.
Yeah, I do too. So anyway, and of course, we also invite you to go to our Tool Talk Radio Facebook page, where I've already posted the must-have item of the week, and Allan has got some past episodes of shows up there. There's a lot of action. We also invite you to join the Tool Talk Radio community and give us a 5-star review. Start subscribing. Do the whole digital thing too.
Join Joe and Allan in the cage.
Absolutely.
Yes. Don't forget, we have tooltalkradio.com with all of our past episodes there, and you can follow us on YouTube and Spotify.
Absolutely. So, and Allan, speaking of critters, I guess you could say, in Critter Wars, it's interesting. We have sort of two focuses today. One is, I guess we're going to call this a war. The other is, I'm calling this a solution. It's a Critter Wars solution.
Yes, indeed.
Instead of just going to battle, let's work in harmony.
Let's figure the issue out.
Yeah, there's a group in California that's working on that. We have a 30 years of stupid, of course.
Oh boy, do we have one.
Why wouldn't we? So we have our must-have item of the week. We have other things. We have some positive segments too, not just celebrating the stupidity of mankind. And of course, later in the show, Allan, we've got our bad homeowner confession. We have a pretty good one today, and we invite you later in the show, if you want to join in on that. Just give us a call at 901-683-0989. And if it's interesting, probably text it in, too. Texting is always good. So we'll throw that in the mix as well. So it's all coming at you today on Tool Talk Radio. But before we get to any of that.
And now, Tool Talk Radio's weekly salute.
Sometimes there is a thin line between success and failure. In many Olympic swimming matches, it can be a thin line between a gold medal and a second-place finish, or even a last-place finish. When it comes to 1970s Saturday morning live-action children's television programs, there was a thin line between wholesome fun entertainment and nightmare-inducing images.
Yes, there were.
Yeah, I'm looking at you, HR Puffin Stuff.
Oh, boy.
During the 3 years he spent studying at stunt school, Max, the producer, learned that there is a thin line between successfully pole vaulting through the second-story window of a flaming building and a 6-week stay in the hospital.
Hey, but you guys, the whole school never prepared me for the mental gymnastics I have to do now.
Absolutely.
That's true.
I told you got to get a lot of speed on the liftoff, Max. And, of course, on one noteworthy occasion, when Allan Gilbreth was flying a homemade experimental aircraft, which he designed to look like a scaled-down version of a Klingon warship,
Yep.
Allan thought it would be fun to do a low flyover at the nearby county fair. However, he soon learned that sometimes there is a thin line between a relaxing afternoon in the friendly skies and all-out pandemonium, as he discovered when he made the unfortunate mistake of dipping too close to the cattle pen, where an overzealous cowboy mistook Allan's aircraft for the scout ship of an invading alien army and shot out Allan's left engine, necessitating a very messy emergency landing, during which his aircraft sheared off the canvas roof of the baking tent, ricocheted off the perimeter fence of the tilt-a-whirl, crushed the cotton candy wagon, and finally ground to a stop 10 feet in front of the fortune teller's booth, who, to her credit, never even stood up from her chair, and casually remarking to Allan as he climbed out of the cockpit, "I knew that was going to happen." She knows her stuff, Al.
I still keep in touch with her. What can I tell you?
Absolutely. Yes, sometimes the thinnest of margins makes all the difference. And this especially holds true when it comes to insulating your homes. While rolled insulation is critical for our walls and ceilings, our windows and doors face unique challenges when it comes to keeping out the hot or cold air, and that is when we turn to the remarkable material that we celebrate today. My friends, we give you weather stripping. Alan, I hope you did some research on this. To be honest, I was too intrigued by your whole encounter with that fortune teller and the aircraft and everything. But
the one thing I forgot is those Klingon birds of prey look like giant geese.
Yeah.
And in the South, a giant goose flying low is a bad place to be.
And armed cowboys, it's a bad combination.
Yeah.
But Alan, weather stripping, what's interesting about that is we also use it on our cars. Anytime you have with doors and windows, they move. They have to open and close. So what do you do with that little gap that's left there? And then here comes weather stripping.
Weather stripping is the next evolution of just basically caulk.
You think so?
Well, you go back to the very earliest possible days of human dwellings, and the big thing was stop the draft.
Sure. I wonder what they did in the old days. They stick a fur under the door edge or something?
You're not horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Of one of the very first weather strips out there that was cute was to create basically a gravel, bean, or rice-filled sock and just lay it across there. And
they still sell stuff like that at the big box store, Alan. That's funny that you say that. It's like almost like a gel filled. It's real heavy, and you just lay it there at the bottom.
And if you go to any crafts fair this fall, you will see draft bunnies, draft grannies, draft ballerinas.
Oh, you're right.
How about draft father-in-laws or mother-in-laws?
Oh, it's been known to happen.
That's right. You see, they're decorative. It looks like a big dachshund is laying in your front door or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
you're kind of getting that this has been a whimsical part of human habitation forever.
Right.
And now the materials have changed. Of course, we started out with just basic mud. It's just kind of
Really?
like we have a crack, you build up the mud around it, and now you don't have wind whistling around it.
Now, how'd they open the door? I guess I'm just,
Well,
must not have been that much fun to open
you had
and
an
close.
edge, and then let's talk about the threshold.
Right.
Does anybody know any idea why we call that piece of weather stripping a threshold?
I bet you're going to explain.
I am.
Yeah. Okay.
Before we had quote unquote flooring, you had threshing. What is threshing?
Right.
Grass.
Tell us what that is, because I know.
You go thresh the wheat. You go cut down the wheat. You knock the seeds off.
In the Bible, I thought they talk about the threshing floor, which is basically, aren't you throwing the wheat up in the air and then all the grain and stuff settles at the bottom or something,
Right.
and you take the
Right, but then you take
get rid of the
chaff,
grassy part,
and
right?
You take the chaff, but that's now nice and dry and has all these wonderful properties to it. And you took it inside and you made it your floor, and you had a threshold, aka a little tripping bar at the door
it from going out
to keep the thresh from walking out of the door with you.
That
Thus,
is interesting.
you carry your beloved for the first time over the threshold into the house.
That's interesting.
So, kind of welcome to that little bar there at the bottom. Its original purpose was to keep your loose flooring from wandering the neighborhood.
Interesting.
So,
well, let me ask you about the other stuff though, because we have in most homes the outside door has like a little metal strip that's it's like a flexible one, but then we also have like a foam, like a flexible rubberized foam type thing. I would have to imagine that was sort of revolutionary when it came out.
Late 1880s, when the Indian rubber plant was discovered.
Right.
That's when stuff got interesting, because now suddenly tires were possible, but that same material from chicle to rubber was easily formed, easily malleable, and now, would fit, between that gap between the window and the sill, or you could mold it to go across the bottom of the door, and the modern world of weather stripping began.
That's very interesting. So, and I just like to think about what the difference is if you don't have that. I'll tell you, I've been in places where the weather stripping's failed, and especially if you live, in Chicago or somewhere cold. man, even one little gap, you talk about those air jets and everything.
Yes, you
it's
walk
just-
by that thing and it will get your attention.
When weather stripping's doing its job, you don't think about it.
Nope.
But when it fails, you believe me, you know about it. So, yeah.
Of course, in the modern world, we have all types of different closed cell foams and stuff like that, and self-adhesive.
Absolutely.
So now it's really easy to put on. It's very inexpensive, but it can honestly, especially you getting ready to go into summer, really good weather stripping can save you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars a year on your HVAC cost.
Absolutely. So the next time you get into your car and it's not soaking wet because the weather stripping kept the water out, and the next time it's summer and you're staying nice and cool in your home, thank the weather stripping.
Absolutely.
So. Okay, you know who else I like? Speaking of staying hot and cool in your house, Allan, you know who's the master of that, and I'm sure he's starting to get busy because it's going to get warm. It was warm yesterday.
Yeah.
Our good buddy Larry Brown from Brown Refrigeration. Boy, this has been the weirdest April I can remember. The weather's been, I mean, honestly, I had a winter coat on last week. It was cold, and now we're going to probably be in the mid upper 80s. I'm sure Larry is swamped. He always is. But if you have any HVAC needs, or if you need to clean up the air in your home, and especially now, just open the windows, let the sun pour in, and watch all those little things floating in the air. That's what you're breathing in. Well,
yes.
So when you get your hands on these Remy Halo systems, for example, boy, does that freshen up the air. And of course, all the smart home technology. They do it all, and they're just very accomplished, and they're just you feel like you're in good hands when you're dealing with Brown Refrigeration. And honestly, it's kind of a relationship. It's not like they just install your HVAC system or service the system and say goodbye, see you later. I mean, it's sort of you build a rapport with them, and anytime you have questions or anytime you need a service, you get in touch.
Well, and you also do your tune-ups.
Right, exactly.
Where they
Tune
can
it up
come
like
out
a car.
and make sure everything's working good for the season before you get into it.
Yeah, they're the best. So get in touch with Brown Refrigeration at 901-362-1881 or go to brownref.com. All right, Allan. So it's that was pretty interesting about the. I liked our discussion about the weather stripping, but it's time to change gears.
Okay.
Hail science!
I remember this time.
Okay.
We're going to that gear.
Yeah. Well, you're up, sir. So what do you got for us in science this week?
Well, since last week we were talking about recycling, reusing, and repurposing, and yesterday just so happened to be Earth Day.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah. Well, let's look at some of these new technologies. Let's look at recycling. Right now, you can buy deck material. Usable right now at the house of deck material that's not exactly made out of wood.
I've used that material, Allan,
and it's actually good stuff.
Now, which are you talking about? Because I think the one I've used was Trex decking.
Yes.
It's sort of a composite material. They take a lot of things and they grind it up.
Old bags, tires, sawdust, leftover wood particles. And so here you have a whole lot of waste.
Yeah.
And it becomes a truly amazing product. Because that stuff is rated well over 20 years.
It has to be. I mean, you could leave it underwater and it's just gonna sit
not
there.
gonna rot. It's
Right.
not gonna. It's so as far as your decking and that kind of stuff goes. So we're starting to see a lot more recycled, repurposed, and reused products, chemicals, and other such moving into mainstream big box stores.
Oh yeah. Yep.
So another one I saw recently at the supply store, I'll even give the company a shout out, was the Really Useful Box Company.
I kind of like their name. It just cuts right to the chase.
It's kind of like, what is this? It's a really useful box.
Yeah.
It is a big plastic tub. It's black. And again, it's made out of nothing but recycled plastics.
Right.
And I have been using these things to haul anything and everything for years.
Right.
Virtually indestructible. They just do and they're inexpensive. And the other thing is, they don't cost that much more than a fresh vinyl tub.
Right.
Here's the solid recycled materials, and it's ready to go.
And if they're made from that, one has to believe that when you're done using it, then it's going to get recycled. It
can also get recycled.
That's sort of the thing. I guess it was, if we can get caught up to all these years of just creating, or making plastic but not doing anything with it afterwards. That's if we can get away from that formula and just continue to, I like that notion a lot.
Well, I've also got caught up a little this week in the HVAC world with all of the new coolants, the refrigerants.
Because that is new. Yeah.
That is now in full force. R22 is now basically no more in the United States.
Yeah.
So we're getting into having to use alternative refrigerants. And I will give the refrigerant community mad props. They and instead of just grumbling about it and why can't we have what we've always had, they have really done a great job of getting in and coming up with better alternatives.
I never asked you this, Allan, but I'm going to put you on the spot here. I should have asked Larry when he was here last time. Why is R22? What's the problem with it? I'm guessing it's environmentally not great, but why did they get rid of it? What was the problem?
Well, let's go back to the 70s. Do you remember the ozone hole?
I thought we still have that. So.
No. Well, we've actually healed that up.
Oh, good.
And that was part of fluorocarbon. Chlorofluorocarbons were a basically, we thought, an inert gas, and they started using them for everything. So if you used any type of underarm deodorant or hairspray or anything aerosol, anything in a can, this was a easy gas to use. What we didn't understand was that when it got into the upper atmosphere, because it didn't break down, it would begin to chemically react with the ozone layer, and thus we began eating it away.
So that was the chemical that made it possible for air to compress and blow out of that deodorant can or whatever.
It was the easiest choice at the time.
Right.
And R22 is very similar in the fact that it was the first great choice we came up to. But as we say, everything has unintended consequences.
No kidding.
It's 30, 40 years later that you got to go, it's not as stable as we thought.
Right.
It breaks down and becomes other things which cause other problems.
And it goes up. That's interesting. And it doesn't dissipate. It just sort of just goes. I'm just picturing almost like a bubble of gas going up and just floating up and hitting the. Is that what it's doing?
You're close enough. That's a close enough idea.
Yeah.
And what we're discovering now is that a lot of ideas we had in the post-World War II, the 40s and 50s, we had this massive manufacturing surge, and a lot of stuff seemed really easy at the time, but we didn't understand necessarily what the ramifications might be 20, 30, 40, 50 years later.
Yeah.
Pesticides, close to my heart, gardening, we had some great pesticides that, we found out they were way too stable and didn't disappear into the natural, and they didn't break down in the natural environment. And quite frankly, I'm fond of fish. I like a good catfish.
Yeah.
I like a nice piece of flounder.
Yeah.
I don't want pesticides from the 60s still hanging around in my catfish today.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, some of these things that have come and gone, we used to have fluorocarbons in our hairspray. Now we don't. Well, it took us a while to figure out what they were doing.
Yeah.
And once we figured it out, again, kudos goes to our manufacturing section because they went, okay, can't use that anymore. I got a better idea. Let's move to this.
So in that vein, it kind of makes me think that's probably the future of plastics. That's the future of any type of packaging or whatever, is to make it out. They're looking at the ingredients that go into making plastic. Like, if we replace this with something that's organic, it'll break down or something. And
exactly what we can do now is build in a lifespan.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Or maybe even build in. Or you get like we were talking about that biodegradable plastic or the microbes that like to eat plastic.
Absolutely.
To kinda, but I think we can get there. Like I said, I'm not all doom and gloom.
No,
I think
this is actually a very positive section because we really have caught on that, okay, well, we did this in the past. Great. Let's admit to it. Let's do something about it, and let's do something better.
Yeah, and you said the R22, all the so the HVAC guys. I will say, I know Larry Brown. He's always quick to adapt. And in fairness, folks, they were announcing for years that this stuff was coming to an end. So it's not like they just cut it off. And there was. I think they had like 5 or 6 years to prepare
very
for
long
this,
lead up to it. Yes.
Yeah. So pretty interesting stuff, Alan. So in a minute, we're going to take a quick break in a second, Alan. But I'm looking at our list here. Do we get to the third? Let's have a little fun. Let's get to our 30 years of stupid because although it is showcasing human stupidity, I think there are lessons to be learned. So, I mean, that's what we're all about here.
Yeah, we have lessons to be learned.
Absolutely.
Or just like to profit from your suffering.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's all coming up. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
Floor feels a little gritty here.
Yeah, we ran out of floorboards there, so we painted the dirt. Pretty clever.
News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis.
I can't promise I haven't done that myself, Alan. And welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios.
That's a delicate operation to be able to paint dirt, so actually props to them.
Thanks. I'm Joe Thorderson with Doors Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Alan Gilbreth from Dark Oak Media and the ever-present Max behind the glass, who really threw me for a curve with that rejoiner. That's a good one. I like that, Max.
You're welcome.
You can call or text us with your comments about Max's rejoiners
I'd rather not.
At the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And, of course, we invite you to go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page. Give us a like. Check out all the action over there. Check out the must-have item of the week, which I've already posted, Alan. Mm-hmm. I got ahead of things today. Made sure I stayed on top of it. And actually, this is a pretty cool device, I have to admit. And it's an outgrowth of some of the things you've been urging me to do over the last year. So
for the last 10 years. Yeah.
Hint. It's a battery-powered, tool and everything. So anyway, but Alan, let's dive into the dregs of home improvement.
Ooh, looks like a loose nail.
1 out of 25 ain't bad.
You don't have any code violations, do you?
Nope.
How many times do we have to teach you this lesson, old man?
What do you think of the house that Love built? Oh, shoot.
Okay. Max is just having way too much fun with that stuff.
They gave me too much power here.
Yeah, what are you doing, people? Anyway, 30 years of stupid, Alan. We've got two stories of woe today. Gosh. And I think, not only do they celebrate the stupidity of some people, but they also give us an opportunity to learn as well. So.
Yeah, that's oof.
Where do we start, Alan?
Let's start. All right, well, walking through a home inspection.
Yeah.
And walking by the closet, and sometimes you see things and your mind just doesn't quite grasp what you're seeing.
I've been not to change gears, Alan, but when you go to a convention, folks, it's the same thing. You walk by and you're like, okay, William Shatner is sitting right over there, and it doesn't register. It seems like it shouldn't really be happening.
Is that a poster?
No,
it's really the person.
No, that's really him.
Right.
He's sitting there. So it's the same thing when you see something so outrageous or just so unbelievable, you don't believe you're looking at it.
You walk through a home, you're used to seeing the occasional extension cord or little outlet cover, something like that, right?
Yeah, of course.
So I'm standing there and I walk by and my mind just kind of goes, get the little tap on the back of the head. He goes, no, you need to back up.
Yeah, go back.
I walked back and there is an extension cord plugged into the wall socket.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't go out into the room and doesn't go down the wall. It goes up the wall.
Ah, okay.
It goes up about a foot, and then it's been stapled carefully on either side of the cord to the wall.
Into the sheetrock. Okay. That doesn't seem like it's going to hold very well.
No,
but,
no.
Yeah.
we have yet begun to have fun with this one.
Okay.
It goes up the wall, gets about 6 feet up, gets about 6 feet up, turns right,
Yeah.
heads to the corner. Now it's stapled about a foot every inch as we go along this way.
Yeah.
Turns the corner and goes back to the closet door.
Now we're getting there. Okay.
Comes across the top of the door frame, goes over the door frame between the door and the door frame.
And it's still being stapled every foot.
And goes into the closet.
Now, stapling into the wood is going to hold it. In fact, it may even damage the wire.
Oh, welcome to my thought.
Yeah, because that's not a good
As it's
idea,
nice
folks.
and squeezed down right there.
Right. Okay.
So I open the closet door carefully, and yes, it really is run between the top of the closet door and the door facing, and is now looped through a coat hanger, stabbed into the ceiling with a workman's light hanging from it.
Wait a minute. So they go to the trouble of stapling, but then they just loop it through a coat hanger.
Yeah,
So,
it's got this baby into the, and I'm like, I can't even begin to count.
so they wanted a light in their closet.
Yeah.
And this is the solution they came from.
I
So
can't even begin to
now
count
there's
the
probably
bad
people
ideas.
out there going, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
What's the
Oh.
problem with this? So why is this 30 years of stupid, Alan?
I-
Because I think I see there's a few red flags for me, but go ahead. So
All right. How about we'll just start with an improperly installed inflammatory device, better known as a light bulb,
right.
because they were using not an LED, but an honest to goodness incandescent light bulb.
So
which is
it
putting
gives off heat.
It's putting off heat.
Right.
One, this is not the kind of thing you hang in a closet, so it shouldn't be there. Two, it shouldn't be dangling from a metal coat hanger. It's kind of like that bad movie said, no metal hangers. Don't
Right.
do this. It should never be anywhere where it is constantly being rubbed on.
See, to
by
me, that was
something.
the thing. If you've got the top of the door rubbing against a wire at some point, and with staples in it,
Oh,
because
yeah.
the staples are gonna
They're gonna
damage the
rub.
wire.
Oh,
they're
yeah.
gonna yeah. So,
Yeah.
So it's well, for one thing, it's ugly too.
It's not attractive.
I just wonder how much trouble it would have been to just install a lights.
All right. There's an entire category of battery-powered tap-on lights these days
well, that's a good
that last
point.
for years.
That's a good point, Alan, because a closet light, you don't need it on all the time. You probably put it on for a minute or two while you're getting your shirt, or
A week.
if you even need that.
Yeah,
So,
and this was a side pantry. This was not a closet anybody used with any regularity.
That's a good point. Yeah, just get the old battery-powered little round thing. You stick it on the wall, you're done. Boom.
And, with the LED technology today, the battery in that thing can be good for 5 years.
Yeah, okay.
So
we're calling this inventive ways to electrocute
Wow.
yourself
Yeah.
or burn down your house. So now you talked about one. I want to shift gear. Let's move outside, Alan.
Okay, let's go outside.
We're going to call this finish your siding.
No.
And tell us about the side. You really saw a lot of bad workmanship this week, didn't you?
I did. It was just it's one of those things. Okay, looking at the house, walking around the house, everything looks hunky-dory. It looks fabulous.
Yeah.
The siding's in good shape. The cinder block work at the lower part of the house was some of the best I have ever seen in my life.
So it was over. It had a crawl space.
It has a crawl space.
Okay, I gotcha.
But it was because the cinder block work was so perfect, I found the problem.
Okay.
Because normally when you're looking at brickwork and stuff, there's a little give here and there. The mortar's not always perfect.
There's
It's
a
not
cracked brick.
Always.
There's a separation. Yeah.
Joe, this wall was as beautiful a wall as you have ever seen. I actually got close to look. I was like, man,
Somebody
put this
really
in?
nailed this.
Somebody really got this. And I saw it.
Okay.
There was about half an inch to an inch between the top of the cinder block and the bottom of the siding.
Half an inch. Okay.
So there's
I
enough
think
to put your thumb. You turn your thumb sideways, there's that much of a gap. Now,
so you're looking at the 2x4 plate at the bottom of the.
I'm looking at the join.
You're
right
looking at
there.
the stud. Well, not the stud, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at the join.
Okay.
And the simple fact is the wall doesn't extend over the cinder block. So the siding is just bringing it even with the cinder block. And I get down there and I look in there, and of course, this is now your what you would call your ground level contact point.
Yeah,
So,
no kidding.
for
so you've got
anybody-
wood.
You got wood.
And it's probably not treated. Well, it doesn't matter whether it's treated or not. It should not be exposed.
It's not good.
Right.
It is crumbly. It is old. It is chewed on. It is a cricket highway. It is.
And it's 3 inches away from your baseboard.
And it's
your hardwood floor. So basically, you've got an exposed stud. Instead of just running some flashing or doing anything.
My kingdom for an inch of flashing. It's just, they just didn't do it. They got down to this very last piece, and all you had to do was run 1 inch wide piece of flashing across that bottom.
Question, Allan. Many questions, actually. So here's what I don't get. When you run siding, people, and I'm assuming this sounds like a 1970s house. I don't know why. I'm always quick to throw them under the bus.
Built in the 60s, sided in the 80s.
Okay,
yeah.
So whatever. So basically, they tore it off. I always start siding at the bottom, Allan. So how is it that the bottom is the part where it's missing?
I know. It's like right as you're here, as you're getting started, just put the piece of flashing.
I know
and
what
then
happened. I can see this in my mind, Allan. I know exactly what happened. They were one guy on one end. They were standing up. They put the flashing out. They're looking down. They don't see that gap.
They don't.
They got about
see that
5
gap.
boards up and go, oh, doggone it. But they just kept going. We're not removing all this siding. We're just going to keep going. And then somebody forgot to go back and whatever. I don't know,
put
man.
some kind of sealant or something underneath there. So, I mean, it's not a horrible fix, but it was just the fact
totally
that
unnecessary.
it was just a 1 inch of flashing, just a 1 inch strip of flashing around that would have been, the perfect wall.
That is that's like a termite buffet, right? It's going to get wet.
It's
exposed.
a highway.
It's easy for any bug to get a hold. I mean, ants, anybody, they'd be happy to set up headquarters there.
American cockroaches love to eat wood.
Sure.
And they'll be in there. What is those wood borer beetles?
Mm-hmm.
Crickets. Oh my gosh, crickets. Look, a little cricket highway along in there. And heaven help if you got ants up underneath there.
Oh, yeah.
They'd be making nests all up and down through the siding.
It's going to turn into a turf war. So, folks, if you're ever looking at the baseboards of your home, or if you're ever looking at a weird patch of your hardwood floor that's warped and kind of not behaving right.
It's that one spot that always squeaks.
You might want to go outside and look at what's going on, just beyond.
Yeah.
So, but Allan, those are pretty solid ones, and I'm sorry you had to experience that. But on the other hand, it's always nice that we can celebrate other people's stupidity.
Celebrate.
Yeah, and learn from what not to do.
Happily, they were both fairly straightforward, simple fixes for the new homeowner coming in.
Yeah. Well, I like your idea too with some of these battery things, like for that light, just stick something on there, and
Yeah, but we live in such a blessed time that the problems from 30, 40 years ago have such wonderful, elegant solutions now.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you put like 2 of those in there, boy, you're going to light it up like
you
a
could
Christmas
land
tree.
aircraft. Yeah.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, not bad, Allan. It's pretty interesting stuff. So, in a minute, we're gonna shift gears and get to our must-have item of the week. But before we do that, Allan, you know who I want to celebrate today? A man who would never forget to put the siding all the way down. He would never make such a rookie mistake. They run a very tight operation over there, and that's our buddy Jay Hill with Big M Roofing and Remodeling. So, for one thing, they're GAF Master Elite installers. They're 5-star accredited with the Better Business Bureau and Good Housekeeping. But also the great thing about Jay, besides his dynamic personality, is the fact that Jay is a former insurance agent. So when you have roofing issues and it's possible, the one thing you might be qualified for replacement or repairs from your homeowner's insurance. I mean, that's why we have it.
Right.
And it's not just a simple matter of picking up the phone and calling them and saying, hey, are we good for this? No, you got to have an advocate, and you got to have somebody that understands the process. And Jay Hill is a former insurance agent, among other things. So he knows the entire protocol. He makes it fun. Allan, he's replaced your roof, my roof, Brandon Olmstead's roof, and several others I've referred Jay many times.
And I got to tell you, Joe, it's impressive to watch him and the adjuster from the insurance company.
Oh, that's entertainment alone.
In insurance.
Yeah,
because they got their own lingo. because they got all these forms and all these acronyms for the stuff they do. It's an amazing conversation.
You know what
to
it
watch
reminds
happen.
me of? Have you ever gone to a foreign country? Like we went to Italy once, and you have your interpreter with you,
Right.
and he's talking to the other person in Italian, and they're da 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 da, and then they tell you what they just said. That's what it's like for
exactly.
Yeah. So he can interpret all of that for you. So, but they do great work, and it's the other thing we keep forgetting to mention is these lifetime transferable warranties. With your roof. It's roofing system these days. It's not just a matter of putting shingles
It's not
up.
slinging shingles anymore.
No, it's a full comprehensive thing, and that does a lot to add to the value of your home and just the peace of mind that you get when the next time it rains. So get in touch with Jay Hill. You can call him directly at 901-484-5645 or go to bigmroofingandremodeling.com. All right, Allan, I think you're going to get a kick out of this next one. It is our must-have item of the week, and I'm going to introduce it by, listen up, folks. Yes, I have brought I've brought a dangerous cutting instrument into the studio. I hope I don't get sued.
Probably didn't want to advertise that. And yet the audience is still cheering for you.
Yeah. But
and at any moment, I'm expecting a program director to hit that door.
Yeah, no kidding. This is an item, Allan. 5 years ago, I never imagined I would have even bought one of these things, just because, we've had our discussions in the past about battery-powered technology. Right. But tell people what we've got here today.
Well, you have there in your hand the battery-powered mini grinder or mini cutter.
Well,
depending upon the blade you put on it.
Right.
I know why the audience is cheering. It's because I finally have an excuse to kick you both out of the studio.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. I might have we might be in trouble. But it's or you could say it's a mini circular saw. That's what it reminds me of, Allan. But you're right. Depending on which attachment, this thing. So it's a mini blade.
Yes.
I'm just going to say real quick. My only beef, Allan, is if you're cutting something that's 3/4 of an inch thick, it just stops short. Like you can actually cut through it and then just bend it and cut it with it. But man, you talk about something. It cuts through wood. It cuts through tile. It cuts through PVC. And it's as portable as it can be. You honestly could put this in your holster, Allan. So,
I do.
Yeah, I bet you do. And it's the battery part of it I like is because it's interchangeable with the other tools that I've got. I've brought in my reciprocating saw, my drills, my screw guns and battery powered lights.
Now you just need to bring a nail gun into the studio.
Well, it may be coming. But Allan, what's handy about this, I got to admit, this company knows what they're doing because all of their batteries interchange.
Right.
And it's got some torque to it. I mean, that was my thing in the past is just the torque and the cutting power, but they've really improved them a lot. So
well, again, proper tool for the proper job. You loved to make fun of my little 12-volt micro drills for years. And if you got really honest about it, now say I work a lot in commercial buildings, and I don't need a big honking
You're not going to haul around a 200-foot extension.
I don't need big bad John the drill 95% of the time. What I need is to be able to work above my head for 10 or 15 minutes at a time, 10 feet up on a scaffolding, up working on lights or working on fittings or something like that. I don't need big, heavy equipment. Now, for those times where I do need the big, heavy equipment, I got news for you. They're battery powered now too.
Well, that's what I'm wondering because I know they got battery powered, just regular old circular saws. I'm tempted. That's probably going to be my next thing. You know what? I'm probably going to get myself, Allan, is I saw a battery powered fan because I was working outside yesterday and it got a little toasty working out in the sun. So
I have both the fan and the LED light.
Yeah.
And I got news for you. We were working in an attic 2 days ago. And I got news for you. That fan made it bearable, and that light looked like we were looking for UFOs.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It was bright.
I will tell you, shifting back to our mini circular saw, Allan, one thing this is great for is if you're ever building a fence, folks, because there's always those times where, depending on how you're building it, sometimes you got to trim off an inch or so. Like the ground will take a dip or the ground comes up.
Or there's that tree root.
Or there's that tree root. Instead of whipping out your circular saw or your miter saw or something, you take this and honestly you can you pull it out and just zip right through it because because fence boards are usually less than 3/4 of an inch. They're
Right.
They're a
They're a
little
half
bit.
inch. Right.
That's what these are perfect for. But and actually, I suppose if it was an emergency situation and you had to operate on somebody, this would cut through somebody's chest cavity, right, Alan? I mean, if it came down to
need
it.
disclosures for the show.
Yeah, how many lawsuits do we got racking up? No, but it's good, and get several blades, because I think the next thing I'm going to use this for, Alan, is cutting through. I want to see how it cuts through tile, because
it does a wonderful job. However, I will warn anybody, if you use this on tile, make sure you put up a towel or something on the splash side, because it's gonna fling.
Yeah,
it's gonna fling.
Yeah, maybe do it outside.
Yeah, but I will
don't do it inside. I could see that.
Well, all right, when I did it inside, what we did was just basically hang a damp rag.
There you go.
Just hang a damp rag. And that way, when we were doing those little touch-ups, especially around a toilet, where you had to get the little weird angles sometimes, that thing was, it was just so nice to not have to not get up, stop what you're doing, walk out to where your blade is, do the thing, and come back and see if it fit in.
Right.
This was, that fits. Okay, good, we're done. And we just beat the dust by little Mr. Spray bottles and a good big wet towel that somebody could hold up.
I'm glad you mentioned that. This has nothing to do with our must-have item, but now that you mention it, that's a quick little, a wet rag or a wet towel, especially, like you said, if you put it up there, I use that sometimes for sanding sheetrock, which I hate. I hate drywall work, but if you take, instead of letting that, so what I'll do sometimes, Alan, is I'll take like a wet cloth, and I'll gently sand it, because then it just lets the dust go straight down and it catches it. But I like your idea, because if you're cutting with something and you put the towel right up there, it's just going to stick to it. And then you go hose it off when you're done, or shake it out or something. So
Douglas Adams was right. A towel is one of the most important things to have in the universe.
Oh, yeah. He's not wrong. And especially with, that's another, that might be another must-have item of the week. A simple towel. Just get an old towel that you're not using anymore, and
better
don't
known
throw
as
it
the
out.
junk rag. Yes,
I've got several of those, and they make actually nice little mini drop cloths too, as far as things that you can put in there. So, but I do have to admit, Alan, the improvement with battery technology has opened up all sorts of things. I think this is really probably just the beginning of all the battery tools we're going to start seeing.
Oh,
I can imagine all the applications coming up, because I mean, it's like I said, once they got it where, for one thing, it holds more, holds the charge longer, but also the capability of giving you more torque really opens up possibilities. So.
Well, the other thing is also the size has come down so much, because we're not having to handle the fins and the big electrical generator like we used to.
Yeah.
Now, you go find Grandpa's old drill hiding out in the shop someplace. You fire that thing up, you will see sparks inside of that thing.
Oh, yeah.
From the fins flying around and the power being generated. The new generation that we have here, smaller, lighter, much more compact. I was using basically what we would quote an air hammer earlier this week.
Yeah.
No, it was 18 volts and was the size of the drill and worked perfect.
I'm just wondering too, Al, in addition to that, maybe one of my favorite tools is my bench saw, which is basically a mini table saw. I could see getting to a battery-powered version of that. Do they have those already?
They do. They sure do.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, because if you could be out on the job site and you're ripping 4x8 sheets of plywood or things like that, you get,
Now you can bring it a lot closer.
Yeah.
Instead of having it way off in the corner. Yes.
Yeah. I got to admit, and gosh, I'm sort of sad to admit, Alan, Old Blue, my power drill, which I love and I'll never get rid of, it has not been getting much use lately.
No, Old Blue's about to become Old Bronzed.
Old Blue might be framed and put over the fireplace mantle.
That's right.
But anyway, all right, that's our must-have item of the week. Well, Alan, the first hour's in the can, but we've got some juicy stuff coming up, including our confession line. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9 The Roar, Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
News Talk 98.9 The Roar of Memphis. Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allan.
And welcome to Hour 2 of Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry, and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Allan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and our pal Max behind the glass. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And you can go to the Tool Talk Radio Facebook page and give us a like. Check out our must-have item of the week, which we've already discussed. And apparently, Allan, it seems to have triggered a few people.
All
Not
right.
triggered, but somebody said they thought this mini battery-powered circular saw looks like a broken drill with a CD attached to it or something.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Not horribly,
Yeah.
not far off the mark. I guess if you took a CD and just carved edges into it, it probably...
Hopefully it doesn't have the cutting power of a CD.
What would the cutting power... Yeah, because I think a
No, they
CD
fly
would
apart.
crack. And,
Don't ask me why I know. I'll just say it flies apart.
Allan knows these things, so and then so in this hour, Allan, we've got a double critter wars. Part of it we're going to say is sort of going to battle against the critters, and then the other is how to live in harmony with the animals. Good. And so I suppose it's a solution that's being offered going out in California. So we've got a few things, and of course, like we said, we'd love to take your calls, especially or text, especially if you've got a bad homeowner confession, such as the one we have coming up now, Allan.
Called you all here because I need some honest answers.
Yeah, they all kind of broke. So, when do I start?
There is a basket of oil-soaked rags above a wood-burning stove.
Are you out of your mind? You put a jet engine on a lawnmower?
This time, they are going to be held accountable. This time, they are the ones who will pay.
This guy paid, Allan. So he didn't leave a name. Funnily enough. So, and Allan, we were talking about this last night. This is actually going to trigger. This is going to lead to another discussion after the fact because we feel it behooves us to dive deep into this.
Yeah,
subject,
this was going to take a little digging.
So this is coming to us from our Tool Talk Radio confession line. Mm-hmm. Dear Tool Talk Radio, I hate cutting. Oh wait, that's last week's, Allan? Hold on a second.
No, that's the guy that poisoned his lawn.
They already paid.
That's the guy that poisoned his lawn. So we gotta, and guys, please don't round up your whole yard. That's just tacky.
Where did it go? Oh, here it is. Sorry. Allan, I got the wrong. I pulled up last week's. Here's this week's. So this guy, he wrote in to tell us that he was digging out in his yard. Right. He was putting in a fence. He was putting in a picket fence.
Okay.
And he was digging down, and he got to about the 7th or 8th hole, and he was going down about 2 feet. He wanted this to be...
He's getting serious, right?
Because I think the frost line here in the Mid-South is 18 inches or something. If you're wondering what the frost line is, people, that's to get below the freezing so that the posts don't swell up and, expand up and everything.
The frost doesn't lift or lower your post, right?
Anyway, he got to like this one, and he hit what he thought was a tree root. It was brown. It was kind of, dark and muddy and everything. And he's like, well, I better really pound this thing through. So he slammed the shovel into the corner of what he thought was a tree root, and had heard sort of a clanking, breaking pottery sound. And Allan, apparently what he did is he had cut through the side of his main clean out, or his main line drain, which is made out of terracotta pipe.
Yep, he sure did.
And he said this was the most expensive. This was the most expensive picket fence that he's ever built.
Then he had a big hole dug in his yard. Oh,
all right, Allan. So is this? I sort of sympathize with him because I've hit my share of tree roots when I'm digging, and it's true. If you kind of hit it at the right angle, you can probably break through some of those pretty well. And but Allan, we've heard those PSAs and those public service things saying, think before you dig, which is sort of what we're going to discuss when we come back, after the fact. But Allan, what's going on here? For one thing, like my main line drain, I think is made out of steel. It's metal, so I don't know.
Well, you're I got to think real quick. The age of your house, you're going to be a steel pipe,
right?
Of every new construction out there since 15 years ago or so is all going to be PVC.
Okay.
And however, Memphis is not a new city. We have some old parts of town. We even have parts of town called Victorian.
Victorian Village. Right?
And guess what? It's gonna be terracotta.
Okay, so terracotta. So I guess I'm wondering. I didn't get all the gory details as far as how much damage this had to cut, but I would think in addition to whatever chunk he broke off, that it would. I mean, it would probably cause splits and maybe. I don't know. It sounds bad.
In that one section, he would have had to have that one section replaced. The problem is now you done found it.
Yeah.
And you broke it.
Right.
So at this point, you might as well replace all of it.
Wait, that's a pretty big job, Alan.
Yes, that's digging up your entire front yard.
Maybe that's what he did.
Because this is one of these things, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
But the minute you break any part of it, you're probably going to be fixing all of it. There are a number of homes in Memphis, and it's hot and cold. And for those of you listening outside of Memphis, look at the age of your neighborhood and the age of your city. Your downtown area and your early residential areas, there's a pretty good chance you could have concrete tubing, you could have terracotta piping, you could have a wide variety of not PVC substances down there.
Is PVC the optimum one? Because that's what they do nowadays. And
that's the biggie today. And the real reason is because we can chemically seal PVC.
Right.
And what that does is it keeps the tree roots from being attracted.
They don't know any water is flowing through there.
They don't know there's water flowing through it.
It's like the Great Escape from Steve McQueen, right?
Yeah, exactly. With the terracottas and stuff like that, the ceramics, they're made from dirt. Therefore, They have minerals and stuff contained in them, and tree roots and shrub roots can find it. It doesn't really think anything of it. It's just dirt, and it can encapsulate it. And, of course, if it finds the slightest drip, it's going to exploit it.
Right.
And if you've ever seen a sidewalk exploded by tree roots, you understand a tree is really patient.
The tree always wins. It's just that slow.
It's slow power. It's going to pull it apart.
Yeah.
So basically for him, he accidentally found the terracotta. And somebody's like, well, aren't those things 8 feet underground? Well, some were.
I think it depends on what part of the yard you're digging in. Yeah.
Well, and also depends on what's happened to your yard since your house was there.
Right.
Because 30, 40, 50, 60 years ago, your neighborhood may have been a hill and now it's a flat. Because they put in a new road.
I never thought of that. That's a
good
point.
And they came in and they flattened and they leveled. And that could have been 2, 3, 4 owners back.
Right.
So, again, you really
Prince
don't know.
Prince Mongo could have lived there. Buried his car in the front yard. You don't know. So, yeah.
Know all too well. So, welcome to what can happen. And the problem is, once you know there's the problem, and you know it's terracotta, or you know it's concrete, and you know it's 50, 60, 80 years old, you already got to fix this. Well, you know at some point you're going to have to fix it again. You might as well go ahead and fix it all.
Maybe he did that. And whoever you are, Mr. Knuckle, wait a minute. Now, it didn't say whether it's a man or what. We're just sort of assuming. I guess I figured it's a guy.
It may not have been. Trust me, may not have been.
Whoever that person was, though,
Mr.
I'm glad
or
they
Mrs.
didn't
homeowner.
right. I'm glad they didn't just say and just tuck a piece of sheet metal in there, bury it again, and pretend nothing happened or something.
Because then it's going to hollow out.
Yeah, then you're going to get a sinkhole. You're going to get all sorts of problems. So we, in receiving this, confession, we thought this is a good time to talk about checking before you dig. There's a reason there's a hotline.
Or
for
you
that
put up
too,
a sign.
folks. Yeah.
Or you put up a sign, because I'll throw in a commercial property that was miles from where they thought there was water, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Okay, so that's going to be we're going to get to that in a minute. So that's going to be our public service announcement. We're going to talk about that. And honestly, Alan, I've hit things while digging. I'm going to share a horrifying story that happened to me about 20 years ago. Before I do that, you know who never digs through sewer pipes in their operation? Cindy Williams with Shelf Genie of the Mid-South. You're welcome, Cindy, for that great endorsement.
She's going, Joe, what a lovely image.
Great transition there.
Yeah.
So, but no, if you've got any issues in your kitchen and I don't want to say issues, but there's different challenges, we should say. The kitchen is a untapped go ahead.
I will say issues.
Okay.
If you've got blank space or you can't reach stuff, you got a problem.
But it's also untapped. It's untapped potential because if you look at any space in your kitchen cabinets or in your pantry or even in like your hallway closets or something, and you're noticing a bunch of basically dead air where there's nothing happening, that's all an opportunity for Shelf Genie in the Mid-South. They basically they have these full extension glide outs, which is great. I mean, for one thing, there's no longer these issues of that thing's way in the back of the cabinet. I can't even see it. I can't even get to it or anything like that. They use every part of it, and they give you full access. And then sometimes people have issues with maybe it's also just a matter of maybe their mobility issues. Maybe they have a robotic hip, Allan, or maybe they just want the kitchen to run more efficiently or the bathroom. Or honestly, one thing that we've talked about is maybe if you're in your kid's playroom, they've got that closet and it's packed with Legos and it's packed with all their toys and everything. Wouldn't it be cool to put a full extension that encourages your kids to organize the playroom, and it makes it fun. So get in touch with Shelf Genie in the Mid-South. They've got great solutions. Everybody goes to Shelf Genie School, from the designers to the installers. Everybody there is very well trained. And actually, you talked about becoming part of a community. You kind of become part of the Shelf Genie community, and it's fun to work with them. And also these consultations, they come in and they do a free consultation with you, and it's very comprehensive. So at the end of it, they're going to utilize every square inch of your kitchen cabinets to your advantage. So get in touch with Shelf Genie of the Mid-South. You can call them directly at 901-422-8225. And when you do, tell them you heard about it on Tool Talk Radio, or go to shelfgenie.com/Mid-South Memphis. So I think, we talk about Shelf Genie going on tour. They're always at events all over town. I think they've got some other events. I know they're going to be at the Italian Festival coming up next month. But
they have the party booth.
They do. They have
everybody's
the party
hanging out in the booth.
If you ever go to an event and you see the Shelf Genie booth, just go in there. It's where all the action is. So, all right, Allan, let's dig deep. Let's go back to our discussion. We were talking before about this poor guy that didn't leave his name. We're assuming it's a guy. I have to believe it's a guy.
Him or her. Yep.
This person dug through and was just putting in. For one thing, when your intention is to be working on something, he was probably all fired up to be getting that picket fence installed, and all of a sudden it turns into
hole digger going and chopped right through that tree root.
All of a sudden it turns into, that's put on hold. Now I've got to dig out my whole yard because I busted the terracotta drain pipe. Well, Allan, I've heard many of these public service announcements about calling, what is it, 811? I guess I should have done my research, but there's a phone number you call, and I to be honest, I've never had to deal with them because I've only had one issue in the past where it happened. Other times I've already been able to locate things without having to call this company. But what is it, Allan?
It is 811.
Okay, so you call 811. Do they just send out a consultation, or how does that work? Do you know?
Well, they can even go so far as to come out and spray paint mark. Don't dig here.
Okay. All right.
Where there's lines and stuff run. Yes.
Yeah, because I would think that the things you'd have to think about is the water line, like the water line coming from the street, like where your cutoff is. There's obviously a water line. You don't want to hit that. Holy smokes. Well, I'd rather hit the terracotta pipe than that. So.
There's water lines. There's cable lines. Occasionally you will run into electrical lines of... Again, I know in 30 Years of Stupid, we talk about you just don't know what somebody did before.
Right.
You just don't know. We wind up, a lot of times, especially in commercial properties, 30, 40 years ago, they thought it was a great idea to have this light up the lawn system put in.
Yeah.
And, they forgot about it 30 years ago, and nobody's known anything about it for the last 20 years.
Right.
And then we get out there to insert a, let's say, water feature here.
Yeah.
And we're hitting power lines that are hot.
I was about to bingo right there, Alan, because I've seen this myself, and I wasn't digging. I was actually going out to give them a bid on this job. They wanted a pergola built way out in the middle. They had a huge backyard, and they wanted a pergola. Actually, they wanted to replace one. They had an old one that was falling apart, and they wanted this to kind of go over their hot tub, which is way out in the line. Well, in order to have a hot tub, you need electricity.
Right.
You need
and
power
water.
Water. Well, somebody back in the day just they ran PVC pipe, like a little 3/4 inch PVC pipe with the wire inside of it. And I'm telling you, Alan, if they buried it, it was like 2 inches down. You could actually see where parts of it were popping out of the ground. And I'm like, well, if somebody digs here, or if somebody cuts the grass too short, they're cutting through that. So there's people back in the day that have just they'll bury anything. Not to mention their hidden treasure or whatever. So
true story on a commercial property. The poor maintenance guy was just putting up the sign that said employee parking.
Okay.
Had a sign, little post.
Just minding his own business.
Mind his own business. Way out in the far corner of the parking lot. Finds a nice little spot next to the drive. Takes his little hammer. Nails this thing in.
Yeah.
I get the call 3 days later. We got water coming out from underneath the parking lot.
So this was so he didn't hear
they knew nothing. And what was happening was he had basically split a water pipe that nobody had any idea was there. And was pressurized, was part of the water system, and it had begun spraying down.
Okay, because I was wondering, wouldn't he have...
No, it was spraying down. So what it did was tunneled back underneath the parking lot, found a crack in the parking lot, and began bubbling up like, the fountain of youth.
So just I'm envisioning this. So he hits the top of the pipe, pounds down, and
pushes
it splits
down
the bottom.
And it's spraying down. Yes.
Wow. You're talking about a sinkhole. It's like...
and now they're, but it's now 10 or 15 feet away from the sign that the water's coming out of the parking lot asphalt.
See, Alan, the thing about that is, okay, a parking lot's bad, but what if that was under the foundation of your home?
Exactly.
That's where you really get some problems.
So it's one of these things you just don't know. If you've got a friend or neighbor that's got what are the things the guys go out there looking for gold and stuff?
A metal detector.
A metal detector.
Right.
Not a bad thing to check your backyard for real quick.
Although that's not going to find PVC or terracotta.
It's not going to find the water, but it will find the cable lines. Now, the other problem we had back in the 60s and 70s was there was the expression, contractors bury their dead. So when they were really trying to build these subdivisions fast, there were a lot of companies infamous for not hauling stuff off to the dump.
Let me ask you this, Alan, because I'm thinking of, I'm just thinking of my house. So basically we have a street, we live off of a street. Our house is set back about 30 feet or so from the street. And in the probably almost just the dead center, if you were standing where the cutoff water line is to cut the water off from our house, it comes almost, if I was standing there and looking in, it comes almost straight to where our bathroom is.
Okay.
Which is almost the center of the house, but just slightly to the left. So I'm wondering, is there a kind of a rule of thumb, like where the water lines would fall? Or because I'm just thinking, if you're digging way over on the side of your yard, it's not as likely you're going to hit if you're maybe digging somewhere in the center of your yard.
No.
There is no rule of thumb.
No idea. It was all pre-planned and pre-laid out and approved as that particular subdivision was built.
Mm-hmm.
But if your subdivision was built in the 30s or the 40s, who has those plans?
Yeah.
And what's been done since then?
Yeah, good point.
The trick is you just got to be careful and be aware because it's buried.
Yeah.
It's kind of almost like a little horror movie. It's under the ground.
And it does give you that peace of mind that, and I don't know how much people are going to be digging beyond like 2 feet or something. But, hey, as we've seen, you don't have to be digging that deep.
You just don't know what they did.
Right. So I don't know, and I didn't even get to my story about the gas line that I once hit, Alan. Maybe I'll bring that back before we move on to our next topics and everything. But boy, please, just we're big fans of the check before you dig. So I mean, you don't want to wind up like Mr. Terracotta here, and bust the pipe and everything else.
And to replace that line, they got to dig up the whole yard.
Yeah, and you just don't know what somebody buried. They could have buried the cable line. They could have been, they could have buried anything.
Treasure.
They could have buried their dead, like Alan
you
said.
You wish it was treasure.
Anyway, so we're going to do that. But then also, Alan, I say we have a positive and negative story in Critter Wars is a good way to make things interesting. You're listening to Tool Talk Radio here at News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.
Tool Talk Radio with Joe and Allen. News Talk 98.9, The Roar of Memphis.
I don't know what that's referencing, Alan, but it sounded bad.
Were you following me yesterday?
Gosh, Max is on the job. Anyway, welcome back to Tool Talk Radio, coming to you from the Brown Refrigeration Studios. I'm Joe Thorderson with Thor's Hammer, Carpentry and Wood Turning, here with my buddy Alan Gilbreth from darkoakmedia.com and the ever-dynamic Max behind the glass, who is, I'm going to call him the unpredictable.
Man,
I don't know what he's going to bring to us next. You can call or text us at the Big M Roofing and Remodeling Hotline at 901-683-0989. And I should remind people, if you've got a bad, I keep calling it a bad homeowner confession. Really, we want to expand it. If you've got a confession, if you've used your tools wrong, if you've
do you have a homeowner adventure?
If you've done no, we want failures. If you've done something really stupid, like this guy digging through his terracotta drain pipe because he didn't bother to check in advance and things like that. We want to celebrate with you, and there's a healing and therapeutic benefit when you confess to something. It just makes you feel better. So, and it gives us entertainment.
Yesterday when I forgot to tie off the condensate pump line before I opened the hose.
There you go. Yeah. Absolutely. So
that was a cold shower.
Yeah, exactly. That's not horrifying enough, Alan, but you're on the right track.
That right line, right?
So you can do that any time of the week. If you want to call or text any day of the week, shoot us a message at 901-683-0989. And if it's interesting enough, we'll read it on the air. And I suppose they can send us messages at tooltalkradio.com.
They certainly can.
Okay, so there's lots of ways to get in touch with us. And speaking of tooltalkradio.com, you can also hear all of our past shows there.
You certainly may.
Alan
dive on to YouTube and Spotify, among any other platform out there. And while you're there, give us a like, click a subscribe. That way you can keep up with us, and you won't have to remember. We'll send you a little reminder every time we post a show.
And we should give a shout out, Alan, because one of the fun things about radio these days is it's not just what you hear on the air. It's what's going on digitally, and it allows people from around the world to listen.
I would like to say hi to our friends in Germany that popped up a few weeks ago. You guys have been listening. Thank you very much. We've also picked up some new fans in Israel.
Oh, nice.
And of course, I would be remiss if I did not say hello to Jose and the guys all down there in the Dominican Republic.
Yeah,
We got like a big following going down there.
Jose, you better be careful because we're going to take you up on that offer. I've never
coming
been to the
down,
Dominican
man. We're
Republic.
coming down.
He said we have a place to stay.
He said we got some crash space.
So that's fun. If you're listening from outside of America, or maybe you're listening from the outskirts, send us a message. It's fun to hear who's listening and where.
Yeah, we'd love to get a message from you.
So, all right, Alan. Okay, enough of the sunshine and roses. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty here.
That's the most foul, cruel, and bad-tempered rodent you ever set eyes on. I just wanted a hug.
Oh, rats in the kitchen, just like that delightful movie I taped in the theater.
I get every reference except that one. I don't know the rats.
Ratatouille.
Oh, that one. Okay. Well, your favorite film. So.
It is one of my favorite films, as a matter of fact.
Okay. So. I like that Dwight Schrute when he's screaming when he's being chased by the bat. So
I like I just wanted a hug.
Yeah. Well, Alan, here we go. Critter Wars. Now, this is the thing. Usually in Critter Wars, we're talking. Well, I don't want to say we're talking negatively, but we're basically talking about problems, and we're talking about. Rarely do we offer solutions. Well, we've got a two-part story because we have some that involve, I guess, going to war, and then others that involve trying to, work in harmony.
No, it's the critter armistice.
Is it an armistice? Okay. Well, this one actually, I'm gonna start with I don't want to call it a negative, but it's just an observation. And once again, this I guess I can mention her first name, Becky. Who, this fence, this has been an ongoing, I've been on this job for like 2 months. It started off building a patio cover for Becky. And then, by the way, I already built a patio cover for her brother, Fred, who's one of my, awesome. It's like the whole family's working working it. And then their other brother has me lined up after I'm done over here. So the whole family's doing it. But anyway, so this is the job, Alan, where I told you about that. Like it's like 180-foot brick wall, right? Part brick, part wood that the neighbor built, and it caused flooding issues. It's caused water problems, and things like that. Well, one thing that I've recently noticed, especially with all these rains that we've had, is that there's frogs everywhere. Yes, there's a lot. I guess I don't know if they're frogs or toads. And I thought, oh, frogs are fun. But then on the other hand, I'm like, well, frogs might be an indication of a problem because they have a lot of standing water that they're dealing with. So I told you they had to spend $20,000 on on a drainage system and all this other. But are frogs a good sign in our yard? I guess let's start there, Alan.
All right. Frogs and toads are indicator species. So they're telling you something. Right. Well,
because they want to eat.
Well, bingo. And let me tell you, frogs and toads eat a lot.
That's interesting because you don't see them doing much. This one frog sat there for like the whole day. I kept walking by and it didn't budge the whole time.
That's okay.
It looked like a little rock or something.
Okay. All right. One of the funniest things out there, people don't realize toads are really quite intelligent.
I don't doubt it. Yeah.
You put out as a matter of fact, a friend of mine has a bug zapper out on the porch.
Yeah.
And she has 4 toads that thoroughly enjoy barbecue.
Do they sit beneath and they catch
every night show up, and they're like one in each corner, and they sit underneath the bug zapper.
And as it fries it,
and a moth comes flaming out of it.
Sounds like toasted ravioli.
Man, these are some very well-fed toads.
Wow, they don't even have to. They don't even have to go to any effort. They just
In my fish pond at home, I have Mr. Froganoff, who is a very large bullfrog, who, by the way, eats my goldfish food.
Well, now that sounds like a problem.
I go to feed the goldfish. You got to feed the frog and the goldfish. So he is an indicator that the pond water is clean and healthy, or he wouldn't be living in it.
Wait a minute. I thought you were going to say, well, they have to eat, so it's an indicator that there's plenty of mosquitoes on here.
Well, and that's where we're getting to your yard.
Because you got the standing water. That's what I'm concerned about.
Now I'm jumping from my pond, which is this big, stable, beautiful body of good, clean water, and now we're going to take that same pond and put it in your yard.
Okay.
And now you've got enough water standing and staying stable enough that you have attracted a frog.
Right.
And the frog wants good, clean, stable water. Well, if you've got good, clean, stable water sitting in your yard, you've also got water bugs, roaches, sow bugs, and you probably have a great breeding ground for mosquitoes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, because that's my thinking. It's like they're not there to starve. Right. They want a food
He's an indicator that there is something going on and you have a new ecosystem going on in your yard.
Right. And I will say too, later in the day at this job site, the mosquitoes start buzzing around by about 5 o'clock. I'm like, okay, here they come. So
it's on.
Yeah.
So the frog is the easy indicator because you can see him out during the afternoon. Yeah. He's out there sitting by the water. Yeah. And if that water is standing long enough that somebody has thought that this is a stable body of water, it is stable enough to be breeding mosquitoes.
Yeah, so if you're out, because we all love frogs, and it's funny you mentioned that, Alan. They do seem intelligent. Whenever you look at a frog, they look like they're figuring things out. Like they look like they're calculating.
Oh yeah, where's my next meal coming from?
Right.
Yeah.
They look like they're thinking. They're not just sitting there like an idiot or something. But I do think the other part is you don't want to run the frog over with your lawnmowers or things like that. So I mean, we like frogs, but let's keep them at the lake where they belong.
But he is an indicator. Yeah. If these are certain things, if you're seeing them, then you can now begin to make other assumptions.
Right.
See, I have a great big huge goldfish pond. So seeing a frog out there hanging around the goldfish pond kind of lets me know the goldfish are doing fine and the frog's happy.
Yeah.
Now, if he was sitting in the middle of my backyard, that would be the indicator that he's happy that I've got a lot of water standing out there that's probably going to make me very unhappy.
Right. Of course, your yard doesn't count, Alan. Your yard is like its own continent. I mean, back there, it's you talk about your own ecosystem. So
Well, it is a different world back there.
Okay, so we're going to say this wasn't much of a war with that, but we are going to say frogs.
It's an indicator.
Frogs are like when you see a lot of frogs in your yard, don't take that as a great thing.
It's not necessarily the best of things.
Okay, let's shift gears, Alan. Let's go out west because you told us about. You were telling me last night about this story in I guess it's in L.A. It's in Southern California somewhere. But this is an interesting solution because we deal with wildlife, and let's face it, we've encroached on them. We're the ones in our suburbs squeezing them out of their space, and
and they're moving.
Sometimes they don't necessarily move.
Let's pick on Memphis for just a minute before we go to L.A. because they're related stories.
All right.
Again, at a building earlier this week, I saw at dusk a raccoon run across a rooftop, run down a gutter line, grab the gutter as if he were participating in an Olympic gold medal event, swing like a gymnast off of the gutter and up into a hole in the soffit.
Wow, that's some serious parkour, Alan.
I mean
that's pretty impressive.
I was impressed.
Nice.
And he was doing this whole rooftop thing so he didn't have to cross the road.
Okay.
So
I was wondering why is he doing all these
roof-topping and wiring, so he never had to come down to our level.
That's pretty smart.
He was making his own little road.
He knows the cars were a threat.
He knows the cars and stuff. Now, being in the Mid-South, we all know about deer.
Oh, yeah.
They're beautiful, but they will do a bad thing to your car.
They also don't strike me as real smart. I don't know. Maybe
I'm going to have to say not the sharpest tools in the shed sometimes.
Yeah. Sorry, deers, but
they really aren't.
Yeah.
So in Memphis, we've got some pretty fair-sized roads. Dodging a deer on occasion happens.
It's bad too, like you said. I mean, they're going to damage.
We even have a pretty healthy deer population in the city.
Oh, yeah, I've seen them. Yeah. I've seen them in Cordova and places like that.
I've pulled into Sherwin-Williams and had them walk across the parking lot.
Right. Yep.
So can you imagine what it's like in L.A. where you have 10-lane highways like 101?
Insane. Yeah. Yeah.
Massive things. There's really no way for a critter to get across that.
And they're going to try.
They
want to cross.
They want to cross. They're going to give it a shot. Well, part of the program they started out there was they began tracking wildlife. And they have kind of a celebrity puma called I think he's called P22.
Well, if he's a celebrity, they need to give him a catchier name.
Well, but that's his tag number, and you can kind of follow him all over the county as he wanders through L.A.
Yeah.
Now, he's in the Chaparral area. He's related to Griffith Park, and people kind of track him as he wanders the L.A. basin.
Wait, are pumas going to attack people?
They can kill and eat you, yes.
Yeah, I mean, a puma's a pretty serious
This is
cat.
a mountain lion.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I wondered.
He's kind of the poster child for this idea, and several people were noticing that 101 is where a lot of wildlife gets hit. It's 10 lanes of highway.
Yeah.
However, there's a big wooded area on one side of it and a whole mountain on the other side.
Right.
So LA has begun raising money for an $87 million project that is going to be called, let me get the name here, I want to get it right, the Wallace Annenberg Wildlife Crossing.
Okay. So Wallace Annenberg was big into preservation.
The Annenberg Society is part of this. And what they are going to do is they're going to build a wildlife-wide overpass over 110, tying the two wilderness areas together.
Okay. A couple things, Alan. Why does a bridge cost $87 million to build?
You got to see this thing. It's huge. Well,
it sounds pretty expensive, but...
actually not really, considering the amount of construction they have to do over 10-plus lanes of California interstate.
Okay, I'm assuming several things. First of all, what if the animals don't like this bridge and decide not to cross it? How do you coax them across? Second, I'm assuming people can't use this bridge, obviously.
All right,
also, are they going to put bait? Are they going to put things to attract animals? Is this going to turn into a big street fight up there with pumas and deer and everybody going to battle? Okay. I just wonder about how they're keeping everybody in their lane.
I'm rolling up my sleeves. I'm ready for you.
Those are the questions that every man is asking.
So, all right. Well, the problem is we already got a problem.
Yeah.
We've already got the critters having problems and causing problems for the humans.
Yeah.
So instead of a normal overpass a couple of lanes wide, this thing is going to be about 10 lanes wide.
So it's nice.
Big.
Yeah.
We're
talking it's 100 feet across. So.
And it's not going to be paved. It's going to be planted.
Well, I assume, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So the animals...
Now, wait a minute. Planted?
Planted.
With what?
The type of small shrubberies and native plants that the animals would normally encounter on their everyday walks. So it's not going to look different from one side to the other. It's just going to be a natural continuation of the environment. And
I got more questions, but go ahead. All right. Because I'm thinking of watering the plant.
It's desert out there. It's going to be planted with drought-resistant bushes and other things. It's going to have a certain soil depth.
So maybe if they put cacti on the outside, it'll discourage them from jumping over the edge.
Well, the edge,
like a border with cactus.
Well, the edge is going to be bordered all the way up, so the critters will not be able to jump off into the lovely interstate below.
Because that was my other question, Alan, is you don't want to make this a spectacle where it looks like Dr. Doolittle up there and it's causing traffic accidents because everybody's looking up.
You're not going to be able to see the critters crossing this.
Okay,
you won't be able to see the critters crossing this.
All right, cool.
Yeah, and a horrible side note, when I lived in Kentucky, one of the things that was tragic, just tragically bizarre, was you have a lot of overpasses up there, and you very frequently, I hate to say it, have deer on the overpass and cars go across and the deer jump off the overpass.
Yeah, exactly.
And on more than one occasion have they landed on or in a vehicle passing below.
Funny you mentioned that, Alan. At some point, I'm going to share the story of my daughter's car that got hit by a flying mule.
Oh, yes. Okay,
we'll get to that next time.
I'm just trying to get the poor mountain lion to the mountain here.
Okay,
Joe.
but Alan, this makes sense then because, like you said, this isn't a matter of you just slap a bridge up there, you stick some concrete. This has got. I mean, they have to think about erosion if they're going to have plants, if they're going to have.
They're thinking about watering,
maintenance. They
even have mycologists involved to make sure the soil has the proper funguses and stuff living in it to keep the environment healthy so the animals will go across.
See, here's what I envision, Alan. I hate to say this, but I'm thinking of some of these like Pixar movies like Zootopia or just some of these things or and I'm like, okay, what if the pumas think it's pretty cool up there and they just decided to make their home on top of this bridge? Well, that's going to cause a bottleneck because nobody's going to want to
walk through.
How do they keep them moving is my question. It's like, how do they keep them from just hanging out on this bridge? Are they going to put little electrodes so that
No. All right. Here's the thing.
Seems like a lot of issues they got to work out.
Well, but this is over an interstate. The interstate noise alone is not conducive to wanting to live here.
Okay. Well, I guess so. Yeah.
Right.
The exhaust
so you're going to have a nice
stuff.
wide bridge. It's going to look just like the natural environment, so you can get from point A to point C without having to cross Interstate B.
Okay.
So this is going to drastically, all right, everybody's going like, well, you're doing a lot for the animals. No, let's be mean for a minute. We're doing a lot for the people because nobody wants to run something over.
Nobody wants to hit
Nobody wants to hit a raccoon. So you definitely don't want to hit a deer. And I can't even imagine accidentally running over a mountain lion.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because I have a feeling if you hit him with a Mini Cooper, you're just going to make him mad.
Yeah,
you know, I'm just pointing out.
Well, I'm going to be interested to see. Has anybody else built a bridge like this in the past? Because I'm thinking of like I've already got solutions. If I'm concerned that the animals are going to camp out up there and make their headquarters and everything up on the bridge, bottleneck it up. Well, maybe you could have like a speaker system where if that happens, you play like a bunch of Barney music on loop or something like that, like they did with the terrorists and things like, or something to make them not want to be there. Because don't they do that for raccoons when you're trying to get them out of an attic?
That's for getting out of an attic.
Strobe lights.
Now,
you do,
certain islands in the Pacific have built crab roads.
Oh, I've seen that actually, because they make a big migration across the road.
They actually elevated the road and built just a pathway underneath the road for all the crabs, because millions of forest crabs are going down to the water to breed and then go back to the forest.
Yeah.
And now they can safely walk under the road on their pathways instead of going across the road and busting your tires.
Interesting.
See, on one hand, I am very much a conservationist, want to preserve the animals. On the flip side, I do like my truck. And I really don't want to be pulling some critter out of my tire well.
Yeah, if they could save the armadillo, that's the one that you always see on the side of the road.
And that's because armadillos think they're impervious to everything.
Yeah,
because they're armored.
Right.
Nothing can bother it. It doesn't understand that 18-wheeler can bother it.
Well, Allan, when is this project supposed to
it's
get
happening
underway?
now. They are working on it now, and it should be open in 2025.
All right, we should probably do a follow-up report on that. It sounds interesting.
Yeah. Now, down in Florida and a couple places in Alabama, Mississippi, they've built basically frog roads, where the same thing, where they've got a path under the road.
That's what I was
for
going to
the
say.
critters.
That's subterranean.
What you do is you elevate the road up, and it's just like building a computer floor.
Okay. So we hit a speed bump, we go flying, but the frogs are safe. So
you never know. You're driving on the pavement, but underneath you, about a foot down, are these gutterways that allow the critters to pass underneath you without you driving through a patch of frogs and winding up off in the ditch.
It's very interesting. And I suppose there's probably going to be, down the road, there's going to be applications for our home, too, because I'm already picturing ways to, I don't know, translate this to your home as well.
We love wildlife, but we don't want wildlife living in the house with us.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things we can do to make our homes wildlife friendly, but not get into a turf war like you used to be with the squirrels.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, we're gonna follow that. I would say all in all, that was sort of a positive critter war segment for us. So, hey, Allan, we don't want to get out of here today before we find out with the latest updates with darkoakmedia.com. Who knows what there's gonna, are you getting in on the?
Is that fortune teller from the Salute also in the?
Yeah, no kidding.
Well, she does have a show on Dark Oak Media, actually, of Spooky Stories with Kalila is actually doing pretty well. So if you'd like to pop on and hear people tell more paranormal stories about their houses and what could be knocking around in there, feel free to pop in. Again, Scary Stories with Kalila. The other big one, Joe, I love to say, is us.
Okay.
Of Tool Talk Radio and Geek Tank Radio both keep gathering subscribers and viewers and listeners around the world.
Awesome. So, all right. So go to darkoakmedia.com to check it out.
Darkoakmedia.com.
And real quick, I want to mention, too, if you've got a deck or a patio cover or a pergola or, really anything made out of wood for the outside of your home, give me a call at 901-921-7105 or go to thorshomes.com. At least I got that shameless plug in.
There you go.
Before we get out of here. But pretty interesting stuff, Allan. And this is just the start. Saturday, there's no reason to tune out.
Oh, there's plenty of reasons.
We got got our racing report coming up. We've got Motor Mouse, and then of course later in the day we've got our buddy Brandon Olmsted coming in for Geek Tank Radio. So it's all coming at you today. So keep that dial tuned to 98.9 FM, the Roar of Memphis. But it's time to get out of here. So on behalf of my buddies, Allan Gilbreth and our pal Max behind the glass, I'm Joe Thorderson. Thanks for listening to Tool Talk Radio, and we'll see you next week.